Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Zahn Academy's A Look in the Lab. Today, we have Iverson Dental Laboratory here with us, Cody Iverson, who is the president of the Iverson Dental Laboratories and a CDT, and Travis Iverson, who is the director of operations for Iverson Dental Laboratory located in California. And today, they are bringing to us a look in the lab at a new piece of equipment that they have been using and validating for some time now. And they're bringing it out to the public to let us all know a little bit about what this piece of equipment is doing for them and their laboratory. And it's called the Autofinish. The Autofinish is a polishing and finishing automated piece of equipment that they've been using. So I want to thank you so much, Cody and Travis, for coming in and being able to discuss what this piece of equipment is doing for you in your lab and letting our viewers know that this is something that's available now and it can help them as well. So Cody, I want to ask you first, I know you guys have been doing the validating for some time now, and why did you consider bringing this into your laboratory and doing this?
Well, with the decrease of lab techs to restorations produced in the U.S. and the increasing labor rates in the dental laboratory industry, labs have to be considering any form of automation. We began looking at cutting out extended finishing tasks so we could better utilize technicians for more highly skilled tasks in the laboratory.
So, like I said before, you've done the validating process there on this workflow. Can you tell me a little bit about the workflow?
Sure. We created a list of objects and materials that we wanted to finish with Autofinish, sort of a wish list, and began testing each one. We used various medias and soaps and tested the effects on the surface of the materials. We then adjusted RPM and run times until we achieved a balanced success. This balanced success included the ability to finish large quantities of objects, acceptable run times, and most importantly, dimensional stability of the objects. We verified this using heat mapping as well as verification of fit. Once we believed we had success, we did beta testing on live cases with select doctors.
Okay, excellent. And do you feel the process has helped your laboratory, like as an end user?
Yes, so there's no question. Autofinish has allowed our lab to continue to grow and maintain exceptional quality that meets our standards. Let's face it, in today's environment with regards to lab technicians, they're very hard to come by, and the labor is increasingly more expensive and due to supply and demand. Autofinish allows us to remain competitively priced and continue to grow.
That's awesome. I mean, I know that that's one of lab owners' main issues is keeping their technicians and getting more technicians. So with the less people in the workforce, if you can get some piece of automation in there that can help you out, it's fantastic. And I know that finishing and polishing can be, pretty daunting at times and very time consuming as well. How does the machine alleviate this?
Well, both models of the Autofinish do the finishing and polishing work automatically. You simply load the machine and let it do its job. This allows technicians to utilize their time to complete other tasks inside the lab.
And this actually saves time, right? Because you're not polishing one little crown at a time or one denture at a time. You're actually polishing quite a few, right? So it's actually saving the technician a ton of time, right?
For sure. So the best way to answer this is simple. We all know what CAD/CAM and 3D printing has done for the dental lab industry. And Autofinish is the only automation currently in our industry for post-processing instead of hand finishing. Hand finishing is almost always done by the most skilled technicians. So what happens is you take your skilled technicians, they're bogged down with all of that post-processing, and they don't have time to focus on the science and the case planning. And let me stress, this is an automated process. So what this does is it saves the top technicians in our laboratory and other laboratories. It saves our top technicians the time of post-processing and allows them to do what they do best, which is case planning and you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah, also, I mean, I speak to a lot of technicians and they tell me that their time is just so precious in the laboratory. They're spending an awful lot of time, you know, working over to get these cases out, starting new cases, that kind of thing, and spending less time with their families. So this can actually help them tremendously in the laboratory, right? Get them to do more of the actual work instead of sitting there polishing. They're getting more cases completed, I'm sure, in a shorter period of time.
Yeah.
By using Autofinish.
Oh, I'm sorry. So yeah, so once again, this is a completely automated system. So once the machine's started, the technicians can be working on other cases in the lab. In our lab specifically, our cast and press team handles these in between their other tasks. And so, and the great thing about that is our cast and press team is one of our entry level positions. So again, we're not just trading labor for automation, we're trading top tier labor for automation. You know, and this allows our seasoned techs to work on the tasks that require their knowledge and skill. The finishing of the prosthetic no longer requires the top skilled technicians, but in our laboratory, but entry level position can run the auto finish, again, because it's automated.
Because it's automated, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you did mention there are two separate models, the DCP C500 and the DCP C250. Or what is the difference between the two models?
Simply put, the difference is capacity due to the difference in barrel size. So the 500 is about double the capacity of the 250 for most objects.
Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. So if it's a very large laboratory, they would go for probably the 500, but a smaller laboratory would go for the smaller unit to start.
Or potentially, like what we do is we have both units. We usually use the smaller one for smaller objects or less, a smaller job of objects. And then when we have a larger batch, we'll use the larger machine.
That makes sense, like single units and that type of thinking over to the smaller. You could get a lot more, you know, in there, and then you would use your other one for, let's say, full arches or dentures, that kind of thing.
Sure.
Awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about the machine's features? Like, what did you find in that worked for you in your lab that you were like, wow, these features are great?
So both of the machines, the 250 and the 500 models, have a touchscreen display. They both come pre-programmed with all of the programs for the validated products. Both the machines are very safe. Once the door is closed and the machine started, it remains locked until the operation's complete, and then they both have an emergency shut-off. So it's, you know, safety's first, right?
Right.
Both machines are made of a stainless steel construction, and the engineering in the machines makes them very easy to use. Probably the best feature that I like about it is the cost of ownership from a maintenance standpoint is very low. That's probably the greatest feature, besides the fact that it is, you know, automated and you know, does all those things.
So the safety, you know, the shut-off switch and all of that, and the safety features, that's something that is attractive to me, because you basically can run this and leave the laboratory, Travis. Is that could you do that? And, like, let's say last cases of the day, put it in and it'll shut off on its own and just do what it needs to do on its own?
It for sure will, if they're the last cases of the day.
Yeah, it's not suggested to. The machine runs very high RPMs, so it's not suggested to leave it unmanned, but I think you could. It's not something that we do generally, but that's also because we do a quick wipe down at the end of the day, just to clean the machine up once it's finished.
Now, validated materials. What are the materials that the Autofinish can polish that you guys have validated?
Yeah, there's quite a bit, so I'll just read them off to you. We've done conventional acrylic dentures and card teeth, including implant supported, milled dentures, 3D printed dentures, which are the most daunting materials to finish by hand, full zirconia restorations, temporary partial dentures, casted and SLM printed partial frameworks, partial dentures after the acrylic and the teeth are processed to the frame, flexible partial dentures, full cast gold crowns, full cast non-precious crowns, and I believe this is only the beginning, and we will continue to expand the validation very quickly with everyone.
Okay. Can you walk us through the process from like start to finish? What do you do first?
Yeah, you simply load the barrels with the proper media and water, add the soap and the objects to be finished, load the barrels into the auto finish, perform safety checks to ensure barrels are secure and all lids are properly clamped, close the door and press the start button. The machine stops when the process is complete. So you simply open the door, unclamp the lids, remove the barrels, and last you separate the objects using a strainer and rinse with the objects.
And what about polishing times? Do they vary depending on what material you'll be polishing?
Sure. There's different RPMs for each of the different materials, as well as different run times for each of the cycles.
Mm-hmm. So this really takes human error really out of the picture when you're using the auto finish, which is great.
Sure.
Can you tell me a little bit about the polishing media? Is it different for each individual material that you're using, or is it the same?
Yeah, it's different for different materials and what step you're on. As of now, there are 4 medias used for all the objects that I listed previously, which keeps things simplified. There's one cutting media which is used when objects require grinding, like alloys. There's a refining media that's used when objects require smoothing, like rubber wheeling or pumicing. And then lastly, there are 2 different polishing medias which are used to create a high shine. They are both the same type of media, however, they are different in size and shape.
So are they, do you have to actually mix any of these medias together, or is that something that's already pre-done for you?
No, the medias are separate depending on what part of or what job you're doing on which run. So you basically just take the objects out of one media and then you put them into another one for the next step.
And when you started using the auto finish in the lab, did you have to purchase the soap and the media separate, or did that come when you purchased the machine from the beginning? So and then would you just finish as you go along, or?
So yeah, so when we purchased the machine, we bought certain medias. So what we've done is, as Cody discussed, we've scaled that back to the medias that work best for each application and what we validated. So we would actually recommend purchasing either the crown and bridge media package when you purchase your machine, or the removable and crown and bridge media package. So in addition to it, Zahn stocks all of these medias and all of the soaps as well. So you can order it directly from your inside or outside Zahn rep.
Awesome. Okay. So we know that polishing can be inconsistent, right? It just depends on the amount of force that the person, who's doing the actual polishing is like applying. How does the auto finish stay consistent? Like, do you have to worry about, inconsistencies in maybe, what's being removed off, let's say, a printed denture or a gold crown or something like that?
So when you're hand finishing anything from a denture to a crown, the amount of force that a technician applies, along with the tool that they're using to finish, can really determine and make a difference on the actual fit or change to the appliance. With auto finish, it's consistently polished every time. Using heat mapping technology, we have proven this time and time again. 3D printed dentures are probably the most extreme when it comes to needing to be finished with hand finishing. So technicians tend to really put a lot of pressure on whichever tool they're doing to try to get done, and they kind of get frustrated, to be honest with you. So even with 3D printed dentures, which are the most extreme, it removes the print lines and then polishes it with very little mean deviation as represented in the heat mapping.
And do you feel that this definitely helps with the fit? Of course, because like you're saying, if you apply too much pressure, that could affect the fit when the patient gets the denture in the mouth.
Sure. So the fit, obviously, the less is more when it comes to finishing. So the fit is going to be better when you've got a more consistent polish or finish rather than hand finishing it, which is inconsistent. So yeah, again, the fit's going to be much better.
And you mentioned heat mapping before. Can you please explain to us like what that is and what, what this means with the auto finish?
So with dentures are unique as technicians lack the ability to fit on a model due to ridge undercuts. So we utilized heat mapping to verify dimensional changes during the validation process. We saw an average of 40 micron of mean deviation on conventionally processed acrylic and milled PMMA, and 60 micron mean deviation on 3D printed dentures. This is well below the 300 micron maximum mean deviation goal provided to us by Colzer.
Okay, so it's awesome. I'm going to switch now to zirconia because I saw an article written by Dr. Gordon Christensen who states that it's really better to polish zirconia versus putting a glaze on zirconia. So I know that it's very difficult and very time consuming to polish zirconia. So now with the auto finish, is zirconia easier to polish, I should say, and does it take up that much time versus like say, hand polishing?
Yes, so the article that you're referring to has been a source of pain in our lab and many other labs ever since it was brought out by Dr. Gordon Christensen, who's the foremost in dental products. Doctors will read this green paper and then they will request for their zirconia to be polished rather than glazed. Up until now, with auto finish, there hasn't been a real good way to do it because it's upwards of 10 minutes to just polish a single zirconia crown. So if you, let's just say it's a 3-unit bridge, multiply that, it's taking a skilled labor top ceramist 30 minutes to polish a 3-unit bridge. With auto finish, it's completely automated. One of the most important things is we noticed that our model-free restorations that we have sent out in the past, we've had some problems with glaze throwing off the interproximal contact fit. Maybe it's puddling, or maybe it just, again, it's an inconsistent thickness. With auto finish, there is no glaze, there is no puddling. So we've actually found in our lab that model-free restorations drop better and have a decreased chair time when seating model-free restorations with auto finish versus glazing. So there's so many different components to it. The kinder to the natural dentition, the glaze wears off over time. It's a really important aspect of auto finish, and you can finish hundreds of units at a time with it.
And as far as when the glaze does come off, that's raw, unfinished zirconia, so that's not very kind to the natural dentition on the opposing. Yeah. So once it's polished, I mean, you're not going to wear away, any of that polished surface very easily.
It's more of a pearl-like surface to the particles.
So this makes it very easy to be able to polish zirconia now. So more people will be able to do that if they have this machine, which is great.
So I've seen ROI models developed with a return on the capital investment, including the starter package of the media, in as little as 12 months. So whether you're leasing this or buying the equipment outright, you're assured that you're going to get a very quick ROI, which is what us as lab owners need to remain competitive.
Absolutely. And can you tell us about the initial setup? Like, is there anything special that you need to do before you get the auto finish? Like, what did you have to do before you got the piece of machinery in your laboratory?
Sure. The customer will want to prepare the site with help from the site prep guide, along with an electrician, as both machines require a specific 220 volt electrical outlet. So the customer should plan to set up near a sink with a plaster trap. And this will just be to avoid having to carry long distances to sift and strain the objects out of the media. The machines come pre-programmed and for all the validated objects and materials. So once the setup is complete, you're ready to start saving time and money predictably.
Awesome. That's great. What about noise level? Is the machine very noisy or kind of quiet?
It's quite quiet. It's significantly lower than most machines. Definitely lower than let's say a milling machine. The decibel levels are actually on the brochures and all the literature. I believe they're on the site prep guide as well.
Awesome.
So it literally reminds me of a home washing machine. It's about that much noise.
About that size too.
What was that?
It's about that size as well.
It is.
Oh, that's awesome. Any last words or tips that you want to, tell our listeners out there about just your overall feeling of, hey, we did this, we brought it into our, our business and the positive impact?
Yeah, so we get some questions about maintenance and cleaning quite often. And it's very simple. At the end of the day, we just use a wet cloth. We wipe down the machine just to make sure any soaps, any spillage doesn't clog up the clamping system or any of the other moving parts. And then as far as maintenance goes, it's really just greasing bearings and checking belts every so often. It depends on the usage. In our lab, it's about every 6 months. We just pull one of the panels. Takes about 5-10 minutes, and then we're back putting the panel back together and up and polishing again.
That's awesome. So really not a lot of maintenance at all.
No.
And like you said, all of this can be bought through, or at least through Zahn Dental. So easy again.
You need to actually see it because it's that amazing. And it's a must for any size laboratory from my standpoint, or in my opinion. It's incredible. And
yeah, we're running both machines approximately 8 hours per day now.
Wow. Okay. So that's fantastic. So it's a workhorse. It's really working for you. So that's that's great and good, consistent work. So I mean, what can you ask for, right?
Yep. Cody always says it just works.
It just works, and I love that. I love that. That's great. We have Route 66, which is one of our financing options, and that requires no payments for 6 months, no interest accruing. So that's a good one. So you can get in touch with your Zahn representative. They'd be happy to put you in touch with somebody in our financing department that can help you. And we look forward to seeing Cody and Travis again sometime soon, hopefully. And I want to thank everybody for joining us today, especially Iverson Dental Lab. Thank you so much for bringing us into your lab and giving us the good news on the auto finish. I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank Cody and Travis Iverson for joining us today on A Look in the Lab. And if there are any questions that you have on the auto finish, you could send them to zahndental@henryschein.com. And if we can't answer them for you, we will get those questions over to Cody and Travis, and hopefully they'll be kind enough, and I'm sure they will, to answer those questions, and we'll get the answers to you as soon as we possibly can. So I want to thank everybody again, and have a wonderful day.
You as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.